Today is Wednesday, July 1st of 2020. My name is Joshua Lopez, and I'm interviewing Richard Beltran for the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Mr. Beltran, that this interview will be placed in the Nettie Lee Benson Latin American Collection at the UT Austin Library. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record you consenting. So I'll ask you a series of 5 questions. Please say, yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each one. There are 2 questions we need to make sure you agree to before we go on. Voces wishes to archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documentation at the Benson Library at UT Austin. We will retain copyright of the interview and any other materials you donate to Voces. Do you give Voces consent to archive your interview and your materials at the Benson Library?
I do, I agree.
Do you grant Voces copyright over the interview and any material you provide?
I do.
Do you agree to allow us to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes.
Okay. So we have many questions in a pre-interview form that we have already filled out. We use that information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server. Before we send it to the Benson Library, we would have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members. So that will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at the Benson Library. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at the Benson Library?
Yes.
So on occasion, Voces receives requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone number or email with journalists?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that was our preamble.
Okay.
Now that we've gotten through, we can start with the interview. So if you could just start by telling me just a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Richard Beltran. I am an elementary music teacher. I've been teaching for 5 years. Yeah, this year would have been the end of my 5th. I'll be starting my 6th, whatever happens next year. And I love my 2 cats, and I like to brew coffee as fun facts. Yeah.
So could you walk me through a day pre-COVID in your life?
Sure. Wake up, make my breakfast, go to work. I do morning duty, so I help the children outside, line them up when school starts and the bell rings. Then I have, my regular school schedule consisting of a regular prep period, classes, all grade levels every day, lunch, duty during lunchtime. Yeah, and then after that, whatever work I need to do after school, whether it's making copies, planning lessons, or just maybe an easy day, just be ready to go for the next day. Go home, make dinner. I'm single right now, so I don't have a family living with me. So yeah, that is a normal day for me. Let's say normal work day. Pretty standard.
And so how did you first learn about COVID-19?
Well, probably just general knowledge of it circulating through the internet. I don't really watch TV per se, so most of my news comes from internet, social media. So yeah, I think I just probably saw it. I don't really remember exactly when I started hearing about it. I would say maybe around January, February, when it started becoming more of a global phenomenon. So I knew I was aware of it, but wasn't aware of where it would eventually lead.
Mm. Was there like a specific news story that you remember like reading this about, or like a post on social media that's what got your attention with COVID-19?
No, I mean, I think of course, I was a little bit aware of it, but I don't remember a specific article. But I think once the word has been going out about potential lockdown, that's when I was like, oh my, this is a little bit serious, you know? So, other than just basic knowledge, I think when it was first announced that there would be closures, that was when yeah, it became serious for me. Yeah.
And so, other than the seriousness, how else did you react to COVID-19 and the idea of closures?
It was very interesting. I remember it was the last week of school, right before spring break. So, everyone had all these spring break plans, and then it wasn't until like the Thursday or the Friday school let out, like the final day of school. So all the schools started having these after school emergency meetings discussing like we might not come back for spring break at all. After spring break, I mean, because of the closure. Um, so yeah, I think everything at first started off really fast. Airlines started shutting down. Just from one day to the next, everything just kind of shut off pretty much, or was planning to. So yeah.
And this idea of the emergency meetings, what was the feeling like at those meetings?
Um, just general confusion, general like we don't know what is happening, but we're not going to reopen till. I mean, a lot of at least my admin suggested it'd be just an extra week as a precaution that we might come back the third week after instead of earlier. But I don't think anyone at the meeting was even truly sure of the scope of the pandemic, how it was going to turn out. So we just thought it was a temporary closure until things work out. But no,
Mhm. And what were you hoping the school would do in response to COVID-19 at that moment in time during those emergency meetings?
I definitely wanted to come back because I had a lot of stuff prepared already. I was preparing kids for, well, I don't generally do contests in elementary school, but we had some upcoming performances that I was working really hard, sorry, on preparing with them for. So I was a little let down, but during that time, during like February, March is like during one of the busiest times for teachers because there's no break. So at the same time, I was like, all right, I can use an extra week or two off, But at the same time, realizing not being able to come back was really weird because you know I didn't know how to plan around planning lessons for the kids or if I was going to do anything. Like I didn't know what the music teacher's role was going to be in that situation because I don't have like a classroom per se. Well, I have a physical classroom, but I don't have a singular roster under my name. I just have everyone's. So I really was kind of overwhelmed that I just didn't know what I could be doing for the next month or two of school.
Mhm. And what role did you want music to play, music teachers to play in this transition to online learning?
Well, as times progressed, I've been thinking about it more, but at the time of, I didn't know what to do. Like, no one really knew what to do. We just had to figure out a way to send something just so they're doing something. At least in my district, like my district is, at least at the school I work at too. I don't know if I need to disclose that or not, but is very low income. So a lot of kids often cross the bridge daily to come here. Also, a lot can't afford laptops and internet at home. So my situation might have been more different than other schools or districts in terms of the technology involved. But for my kids, I remember admin telling us that like many of them don't have access to computers and whatnot. So I mean, there's not much I can do in that situation. So I had to, you know, I think we're all kind of feeling out how we're supposed to be teaching online, and trial and error. Sometimes you do video classes, sometimes you just assign assignments and hope they turn things in. And I didn't want to make it too stressful for the kids because, I'm their once a week class. Like how accountable can I really hold them for doing music assignments in elementary school? You know what I mean? So I there I would say throughout the whole last few months of school, I kind of didn't know what my avenue would be to take. But now that there's been a lot of professional development webinars about how to teach music online and how us as teachers need to be flexible with certain types of instruction. So I'm still learning how I'm going to be able to do it this upcoming school year.
Mm.
I'll elaborate more on that, but I'll let the interview keep going.
Well, what did that look like? Like, I guess, what did the webinars teach you about teaching music online?
Okay.
How did that look like in your experience when you practiced that?
Well, I haven't had a chance to really practice that yet. This is me sort of preparing for next month, however that's going to be, because I'm not even sure what my schedule is going to look like. I I don't really I don't really know how much to prepare for because I don't know if I need to be if I'm allowed to, you know, I really don't know if there's going to be online learning and physical learning yet in my district. So for me, I I'm just trying to gather ideas and until things are more concrete, I can, execute those ideas whenever I have an idea because I don't know if I'm going to be teaching from home or from school. And if it's from school, if I can at least use my classroom to e-teach because at my house I don't have music equipment. I don't have I have way more tools in my classroom that I can electronically teach than from the comfort of my home, unless I like make a whole setup. But I don't know if I need to do that because I just don't know what next year is going to entail schedule wise or what they're going to need from me. Because I know a lot of, based on what I'm looking up and some of these webinars, a lot of music teachers won't be teaching in their classrooms anymore. They'll be like on cars, just the sake of less transferring kids or kids not being able to borrow equipment. Well, that's another thing. The way I'm going to deliver instruction is going to be so different, at least in my classroom, because in elementary music, we do singing, we do moving, we do structured play, holding, touching, like playing, touching, using instruments, shared equipment. It's just everything about what I'm doing cannot be done. Like singing, you can't do singing anymore because that's the most contagious way to spread it. Because when you sing, you release aerosols, which then spread it more. So there was that article about the whole choir got infected during a concert, and it's very dangerous. So people are saying, well, have them face in a circle, but away from each other. It's like, you can't really do singing that way. Maybe fun, but not as teaching, circular. So you can't do singing in the classroom unless they're like more than 10 feet apart. And then I don't even know how big my classroom sizes are going to be. We can't lend each other instruments because we're touching them physically. Can't do circle games or structured play because that's physical contact. It's just I'm trying to figure out what me as a music teacher is going to be able to do in my classroom. Humming, listening, writing, but I mean that might work for upper grades, but for like children, like 4 years old, pre-K, kinder, it's just going to be really different. I don't know.
Wow. So it sounds like you're going to be like on the forefront of experimenting and creating ways of learning music.
Pretty much.
That's kind of cool, but a big responsibility.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but it'll be interesting.
So going back to what you said about your school district, how has your school provided students tech accommodations?
So I was a burp waiting.
Oh, no.
Um, um, well, I don't know the full process and the whole procedures, but I do know that the front office and the admin, they're reaching out to the families who, we survey them and who does have what in certain technology, who doesn't have a laptop, who has access to internet, who does not. And, we've done our best to, you know, have laptops supplied to them. I don't know how many of them we have available to supply and how many students actually got them and received them. So I'm not really sure the logistics of that, but I do know that we've been trying to lend out technology for them to, do stuff online.
And are there other ways that your school has helped the community during this time?
Yes, our school continuously does services for meals, breakfast, dinner, other, charity stuff. Um, and once again, I'm sure there's more, but at least from my knowledge, they are still providing services to families and kids. At least I know food. I see the messages on that, but yeah.
Mm. Have you seen like what that looks like? The or do you know how many families are using the school's resources and their help in this way?
I don't know specifically once again, but I do know that a lot of them do take advantage of that because I know we do have a lot of low income families there, so they really rely on the resources that um, my school provides for sure. Yeah.
All right. So how has COVID-19 impacted you aside from your professional life?
Oh, it's been a journey. Sometimes we lump it all as just the pandemic, but then you realize it's been 4 or 5 months now. So you're like, wow, a lot has really happened in all that time. Um, and I kind of, I'm doing okay, but I kind of thought I would, it wouldn't be a big deal for me because I've always kind of been a homebody anyway. So I'm like, this will be a new challenge, but also not that new. So I started off pretty okay, and then I know a lot of people had a lot harder time dealing with it. For me, it was okay, and and I don't know what it would have been like to be quarantined with my family because I can imagine being isolated in a house with your family all the time. That might be different than you know being alone all the time. And I'm the latter, so I've had lots of ups and downs, and I would definitely say it hasn't helped my anxiety. I think I'm still learning to deal with a lot of the aftermath of just mass isolation. So it gets loneliness is another thing. You know, cabin fever, boredom. Uh, I would definitely say it's affected me a lot. Um, maybe not directly, but just the time being isolated. You know, you start thinking about everything because that's kind of all you have time for. So it may have triggered some depression, some anxiety, some it's definitely affected me, I would say, for sure, in a lot of ways, mentally and emotionally. Yeah, even though I thought I would come out of it like, oh, I got this, and it pays its toll in time.
If you don't mind me asking, were there certain things that like triggered the anxiety? For example, like I read an article, and just from my own experience as well, like reading so much about like the deaths of young people across the country from COVID-19, that got me really thinking a lot about life and death. And so I was wondering if there were similar things or other things that brought that about.
Yes, I would definitely agree in that. um, you know through the course of the pandemic, importance on mental health has been, or just focus on mental health has been the forefront of everyone because everyone's starting to realize their mental health is not as stable as they thought it was, or it's probably just in the result of the pandemic. Had the pandemic never happened, we'd have been going on with our daily lives, and sometimes those daily activities and routines and jobs that make you feel fulfilled, they quench that's part of just being alive, is living a life. And having all that taken away and being unable to do anything about it, social outings, eating at your favorite places, enjoying things properly, enjoying shopping. I don't like shopping at all. I used to like shopping pre-COVID because, but shopping with the mask and it's just not the same. Nothing's the same. So definitely mental health has been a huge, has gotten a lot of attention because it's really important. Everyone's dealing with it.
Mhm. And so how are some of the ways that you coped or worked through the anxiety and the depression that you've mentioned?
Well, using my um, taking my hobbies to the next level, using most of my time expanding on those things, distractions really, trying to stay in communication with your friends and family, um, doing things that make you happy. My cats have helped a lot because they were kind of still kittens before the pandemic, and they've grown a lot, so it was just fun. I think the way most people have been doing that is just distractions, or you know doing things that make them happy and just hoping for the best. And it's been hard because you would think, oh, this leisure time is like nice, but you know i I think I'm feeling anxiety about my own job because I haven't taught in like 4 months, what it feels like. And I kind of feel like I'm just losing my touch, and it just makes me feel bad about myself because I'm like, you start thinking about what you could have done better, and will you ever, like, how are you going to adapt to the new e-learning when you don't have things in your home to do things with? So it's just been it's been a little bit anxiety inducing, just the amount of uncertainty into what's gonna happen next year. And you know I'm still not even sure if schools are going to reopen after all, like with the whole new, rising cases, especially in El Paso, and how things are starting to shut back down. It's like, ah, I don't even know what to expect. And that's giving me a lot of anxiety because, you know, I felt like, you know, I, I'm taking for granted now how helpful it has been to be teaching in person for so long and not being able to do anything. It just feels like it's tough. Yeah.
What are some of the hobbies that you have, or what are some of the distractions that you use?
Well, ever since a child, I've always been a big gamer, so I play a lot of video games. It gets a bad rap with the older folks, but it's definitely another topic on its own. But I've been gaming a lot. Um, as I mentioned earlier, I've always been a big coffee guy, and I'm dabbling into like espresso. And it's an expensive hobby, but I would say definitely worth it. I've been cooking a lot. Um, I've been working out so much. Like everyone has. I mean, I dare you try shopping for a pair of dumbbells. You won't find any in stock anywhere at any store. I've been exercising a lot, so that's actually been a great help with my anxiety and depression. Like it's really uplifting, mood wise, physically. So yeah, that's been a new thing for me. At least at this level, every other day or every day working out. Um, and at least in the beginning of the pandemic, I try to take as many walks as I could because I just needed to be out of the house sometimes. Now I haven't been walking as much, but I've been exercising a lot to compensate. Um, I try to visit my family as much as I can, as responsibly as I can. Um, yeah, and just seeing close friends here and there. I've never really been like a popular guy with have a lot of people over at their house or anything. So I've always preferred one-on-one. So having one-on-ones with close friends I trust has helped a lot too. Um, yeah, like anything that can be used to distract me is a hobby of mine right now.
Nice. You mentioned your family. How has COVID-19 impacted them?
It's been kind of divisive in some ways, mainly because my brothers, um, well, one of my brothers, uh, he he's kind of like, anti-wearing masks. He has his thoughts, and it's kind of caused a clash with my family, because my parents are, very like, "Yeah, don't see anybody, stay by the rules," which is safe, and my brother's like the opposite of. So it's definitely caused a little bit of tension, but you know everyone has their own views and things about the coronavirus and the pandemic and everything. And some people have a hard time adjusting to doing the protocol or whatever it is. Sometimes it's personal, so my family's been good though, but I would say that differing opinions on certain things also throws a wrench in things. And yeah.
What's your response to the great mask debate, especially since it was mandated recently?
Oh yeah. I mean, if it I'm all for safety, so if I'm uncomfortable for 40 minutes wearing a mask going to the store, that's worth the sacrifice. And I mean, as a teacher, I've just been home most of the time, but let's say if I were, maybe my opinion would be different if I was working at like a fast food restaurant or a place, or where there's people there and you have to have your mask on for 8 hours a day, because I know it's not comfortable. And you know I've seen like skin rashes everywhere. So maybe for them it's hell. For me, I like to play it safe, and if I'm only going to use it temporarily, it's not an issue. And I don't see a moral like issue with wearing a mask, especially during a pandemic. So I don't see the big issue in it. So I practice those safe precautions. So I say just wear your mask, just suck it up. But can't speak for everybody.
Well, why do you think people don't want to wear masks? And you probably have heard your brother talk about this since you mentioned his
Oh yeah.
stance.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not gonna get too into it, but I guess for starters, some some people say it doesn't really prove that you're gonna be safe for the coronavirus, so why wear it? Other people are like, well, it's an infringement on your identity as a person, so you know, don't wear it. um, so it could be for just personal things. It can be just, you know, people say it doesn't help with the prevention of the disease, so why wear it? I don't know. I don't try seeking like all the claims as to why to not wear masks, but so yeah, but yeah.
Um, Kind of thinking about your family, you mentioned visiting them. Um, would you visit them often? Like, obviously before COVID-19, but when all of it started, like the closures and everything, how often would you see them if you ever did? And then how did that change to the present?
I would say pre-pandemic, I would see them probably every weekend or every other weekend, or if we planned an event, maybe midweek or like a birthday or something. When the pandemic started, we didn't meet up for like, I would say, a month, and I think the next month it was my birthday, so my family wanted to like do something. So they visited me, just my mom and my dad only. And it's kind of a trust thing, like, oh, have you been seeing a lot of people? It's like disclosing your sexual history or something. Um, but no, I mean, I trust my family, so this, you just gotta trust them, your family. So yeah, they came, visited me, and then that kind of like opened the door. So I think every weekend, or maybe not as much, maybe not exactly every other week either, but I've been seeing them here and there. Sometimes they visit me, sometimes I visit them. Um, yeah, and we don't really leave and go do things in public places. We just kind of hang out at the house, make dinner, or take a walk as a family. But yeah, I would say I have, ever since I think my birthday, we've tried to keep it a regular occurrence, so at least see each other at some point. It doesn't have to be all the time, but sometimes.
Well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
How did you all celebrate? What did that look like?
um, it was cute. A little bit of drama to make it juicy too. They just wanted to come over, and they wanted, order whatever I wanted, and I was in the mood for sushi, so we had like a sushi feast. Um, and actually, my brother was disinvited because he didn't want to wear a mask, or not. They don't. We didn't meet together wearing masks, but he has been hanging out with friends and doing all these things during the pandemic, so we didn't trust him. Now, I didn't want to kick him out, but my dad was like, if you're not going to respect, the safety of our family, blah blah blah, don't even come. So that was kind of like, ooh. I don't disagree that I don't, I think it was a bit harsh to just ban him from the family, but I also don't agree that he should be so risky and not caring, and kind of against my family try to, impose that. But so just me and my parents, we ate, it was cute. We took a walk, they left. Yeah, very standard. Yeah.
So, what kinds of concerns or questions about healthcare have emerged as a result of COVID-19?
Um, I would say, I think on everyone's mind, when can we go back to normal, and when? And I think, and I'm very hopeful that things will go back to normal, but the problem really is when. As I feel like as the pandemic has gone on longer, people have been caring less about sanitation or precaution, like safety measures. And at least in El Paso, as we know, it's actually going climbing higher than other places. So now it's like, well, it's going to be longer till things get fixed. I mean, as research develops, I'm sure there will be ways to make things better, or the vaccine when and if that'll happen. But in terms of the immediate, I think it's definitely, it's definitely more of a concern, because it's actually increasing than slowing down. So my worry is, you know, how much it'll keep rising and if it will, or. So.
Mm. You mentioned cases going up in El Paso, and I was wondering if there was anything that you witnessed that showed kind of like this lack of care that you mentioned, that like people just don't, they've
Yeah.
gotten bored with it. And so like, what are some things that you've
Okay.
witnessed that kind of demonstrate that?
Actually, just this past weekend, I was hanging out with my friend. We were driving, and it was like Thursday night, not even a weekend. We're going up Mesa, and where Cincinnati is, where all the college bars are, flooded. No one's wearing masks. It's like as if it was a regular Friday night after finals week. It's no one was wearing masks, hoarding in these bars, and I'm like, this is why, this is why it's increasing. Is people, I mean, I guess in that instance, young people don't care, and that was pretty alarming. I was like, put on a mask. I don't mind. I mean, okay, I get the 6 feet is not always realistic. You can't have a ruler apart from everyone all the time, but at least wear a mask if you're going to be huddled that close together. So, yeah, just last weekend I saw a horde of college kids partying, or trying to. And yeah, that was the most recent case I would see for sure. And it was a Thursday, so I could imagine what it's like on the weekend.
So why do you think young people are so like emboldened by this time?
I feel like it goes with most people, not just young people. Like if they're not infected, then it doesn't concern them. You know what I mean? Like if they're safe, it doesn't matter. And you can say a lot. You can say that about a lot of things. About Black Lives Matter. If you're not affected, then it shouldn't matter to you, right? But it's an issue.
Mm.
But I feel like like I think it's the feeling. I can't put my finger on it, but I guess when you feel healthy and safe, you don't feel like, well, if I'm being safe, then I don't need to do all the precautions. I think in their head it's like, well, it's mostly affecting older people, so I think I'm okay. So maybe it's just like, I don't know, a little bit of ignorance and a little bit of just, yeah, I would say that's what it at the end of the day, it's really what it is. um, but it's a shame.
You brought up Black Lives Matter, and I was wondering,
Oh no.
like, oh no, not this question. Like how, if at all, have the current social movements in conjunction with COVID-19 impacted your daily life? And for social movements, and we can talk about Black Lives Matter. It was also Pride Month this month or this past month. Um, and so, and there were other things going on, like, the Supreme Court's ruling on DACA. So like how have, considering those social movements, how have they impacted your daily life?
um, at least when the rioting started, I definitely felt like it impacted me very much. So the rate at which the message was being spread, the rate at which it exploded socially to everybody, especially on social media, like everyone was calling each other out. It was definitely a lot. Like, and I'm definitely for the rioting and the whole Black Lives Matter, but I'll admit, even to me, it was overwhelming, because you know, at the rise of it, everyone was fighting about it, for and against. And it really gets your brain training, because at least when you're isolated, that's kind of like your only way of communicating with people. Social media, and social media is bombarded with these issues. So it's crazy to just kind of experience that, and let your thoughts formulate on it, and as you just learn a bit about it. So it definitely affected me a lot. And I think in the long run, I think at first it was just a lot of shock value for a lot of people, and people didn't know how to react to it. But I think as the days have been going, and even today, I've really appreciated the amount of like positivity and openness for all sorts of lives, Black lives, trans lives, everything. So I feel like it's definitely impacted me positively at the end, because I feel like just the positivity being spread through social media and the awareness, I think just way more people are aware of these issues more than they ever have been. And that's just, it's better than not knowing anything about it. So I feel like people that maybe have not been involved are at least a lot more informed. So the future decision makings of whatever it be about race or gender or anything, it'll be a much more intelligent conversation in the future. It being addressed so much lately.
Mm. Did you participate in any of the protests or any of the social movements, any of their events?
I have not attended like a riot physically or a protest. I guess that's the protest. No, and I wanted to feel helpful in some way, and I wanted to provide, so I have donated to some of the Black Lives Matter organizations and funding that they were doing for during the protests. I mean that they're still going on, but I did try my best to do my part. But no, I haven't actually physically gone to one of the protests. No.
Mm. Um, how's COVID-19 impacted whether you decided to participate?
Definitely, yeah, that's played a part into it. Um, yeah, and also I don't I didn't have like a large group of friends to go do it with, and not that you can't protest by yourself, but I didn't feel it in my place to just go by myself and protest. Um, my intent is there, but I haven't physically done that.
So, considering that this oral history is for people, in the future they'll listen, um, what message do you have for them about this time? Or what do you think they should know about this time?
um, General people, educators, or fine arts educators.
Anyone, a general audience, really. But what do you want them to know about your experience and about this time in particular?
Um, you know, it's definitely very unfortunate what the whole pandemic is, but I think there's definitely some lessons to be learned from it. And I feel like a lot of people, I think it's also done some good for people as well in the long run. I think just the nature of isolation brings out self-reflection in a lot of people. So I feel like, yeah, the circumstances aren't great, but I feel like at the end of the day, a lot of people have really dug deep within themselves to find answers to some of the questions they've been asking, or insecurities, or whatever other issues that they may have. And some people, never really took their mental health seriously until now. And though it may be negative at first, I feel like, the pandemic has really taught us a lot about ourselves, which can only do good for us going forward. And I guess for any message, just be strong, be open, um, you know, try to improve yourself, be patient, be safe. Um, Everyone is just as confused as you are. We don't have answers to anything, or we feel like we don't have all the answers to everything. So, the best we can do is just write it out and just try and stay positive, even though it may feel so hard. But I'm struggling, but everyone is too. And I think if we're aware of that, we'll be more willing to work through it. So yeah.
And just going, because I heard you say when you asked me, like in regards to educators or arts educators, um, what are kind of the final words you would like to say about like education and music education or arts education during this time?
you know i'm I very much look up to some of the educators I've seen be so proactive about trying to do what they do wherever they are. I wish I was more like that, but I'm excited and scared and confused, as well as the future of what online teaching is going to be. And I have a feeling even after the pandemic is done, I think a lot of what we learn from, I guess, this upcoming school year about how e-teaching is going to be, where it's going to really change education, period. Because, in an age of technology, which is now and lately, it's only going to become more relevant. I mean, nothing will ever replace face-to-face learning, especially with music. Nothing will replace that. But in terms of general education, it's definitely um, it's definitely going to be important. I think fine arts and even athletics, in a way, are definitely shafted the most from this, because our craft is very physical. It's very collaborative. It's very intuitive. It's very needing to be around people and learning from each other. So it's definitely hard, and I have no idea like how it's going to turn out. But you know, I'm looking forward to see what can be done to make teaching music better.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Is there anything else you would like to share about your experiences with COVID-19 that I haven't asked about?
No, we touched on a lot. We even touched on political issues. So, um, uh, no, this was fun.
All right. Well, that concludes the interview. Thank you for your participation and your story.
Of course.